Welcome to this short presentation on emotional intelligence. It has been designed to introduce you to emotional intelligence as a subject, but it can also be used in conjunction with the EQI online assessment. Emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage our own emotions, as well as be able to recognize, understand, and influence the emotions of others. If we can develop this ability, we can use this information to guide our thinking, our reactions, and our behaviours. So in today's world of work, we sometimes have to influence or ask others to deliver without feeling we have the authority to do so. By managing our emotions and responses to others, rather than being taken over by them, our skills of listening, influencing, and decision-making are likely to improve. Developing our emotional intelligence will also help us navigate around difficult issues and handle ourselves more effectively. So perhaps we could start to think about this as a set of emotional and social skills. Understanding our emotions and how well we express ourselves. How do we develop and maintain social relationships with others? How can we use our emotions to make choices and decisions? And how can we cope with difficult or challenging situations? So let us take these emotional and social skills and map them on to the emotional intelligence model. There are 5 main elements here. Each of them have 3 subsections, which I will go on to explain later. But let us start with self-perception. How well do we perceive and understand our emotions? The second element is self-expression. How well do we express ourselves in relation to our emotions? The third element is interpersonal. How well do we develop and maintain relationships with others? The fourth element is around decision making. How do we use our emotions? What part do our emotions play in how we make decisions? And the fifth and final one is stress management, but looking at it in a wider context in terms of how well do we cope with challenges. So self-perception. Self-perception has 3 subsections, the first of which is self-regard. Self-regard is about respecting yourself while understanding and accepting both your strengths and your weaknesses. And it's very important that we do this realistically, that we have some evidence to support what we believe to be our strengths and what we believe to be our areas of weakness. A very effective way of getting this extra evidence is having conversations with those around you, perhaps some of your colleagues. What do they believe to be some of your strengths? What do they believe to be some of your areas for development? Self-actualization. This is about striving to realize your potential. This is the willingness to persistently try to improve yourself and engage in things that you feel are personally relevant and meaningful, whether that be your private life or your professional life. Emotional self-awareness. This is about recognizing and understanding your own emotions. This is about being able to accurately pinpoint and differentiate between your emotions and beginning to understand what causes these emotions, the impact that they have on your thoughts and your behaviours, and the impact that they have on others round about you. So now on to self-expression, and let us come first to emotional expression. And this is about how can we openly and comfortably express what we're feeling, not only in a verbal way, but in a non-verbal way to others when we communicate with them. This leads us on to assertiveness, and this involves communicating what you believe to be right, your thoughts and your needs openly, and being able to defend your rights and values in a way that is socially acceptable, that it's not offensive to other people, and that it's done in a constructive manner. And the hallmark usually of someone who is assertive is that they accord all of these aspects of assertiveness to other people with whom they communicate. And the third aspect of self-expression is around independence. And this is how able we are to be self-directed and free from being overly dependent on other people emotionally as we work with them. having the ability to work autonomously on the daily tasks, the planning and decision making that comes within our role, and striking a balance between standing on our own feet and knowing that sometimes it is relevant to consult with other people. So now on to the interpersonal aspect of emotional intelligence. And let us start with interpersonal relationships. This is the skill of developing and maintaining mutually satisfying relationships that are characterized by some degree of balance within the relationship, as well as trust and compassion. Empathy. This is about the ability to recognize and understand and appreciate how other people feel. Empathy involves being able to articulate your understanding of that other person's perspective and, even though you may not necessarily agree with their view, behave in a way that respects that view and respects their feelings. Social responsibility. This is about the willingness to contribute to one's social group, society, or generally to the welfare of others. Whatever group you may have in mind, it involves acting responsibly towards that group and having some consciousness and social concern for the wider group or community. So now on to decision making, and decision making when emotions are involved. Let's start with problem solving. And this is less about problem solving per se, but this is more about our ability to find solutions to problems in situations where emotions are involved. And this would include us understanding a little bit better how our emotions impact on our decision making. Reality testing. This is about our capacity to remain objective by seeing things as they really are, rather than the way we would like them to be or fear them to be. This can involve recognizing when our emotions, or sometimes our personal bias, can cause us to become less objective. Impulse control. This is about the ability to resist, delay, or manage the impulse drive or temptation to act. If we can manage our impulse control, we are less likely to have rash behaviours and poor decision making. So on to the last element of emotional intelligence, and that is stress management. And we start with flexibility. And this is about our ability to adapt our emotions and our thoughts and our behaviours to somewhat unfamiliar, unpredictable or dynamic situations or ideas that might come our way. And stress tolerance. This is about our ability to cope with stressful or difficult situations. And it's also about having the confidence in general to manage or influence situations in a positive way, however difficult they may be. Optimism. This can be an indicator of our positive outlook on life. It can involve us remaining hopeful and resilient in spite of the occasional unexpected setbacks that we all experience. So how do you begin to make sense of your emotional intelligence? It may well be that you feel the content of this webinar is a good foundation for discussion with friends and colleagues round about you in relation to how well you engage and connect with them emotionally. Alternatively, you may wish to complete an online EQI assessment. This will give you a personal and more accurate measurement of each of the 15 aspects of your emotional intelligence. You will receive a full report, but what I'm showing you here is an overview of the results that you will receive. And the reason that I would like to show you this is that it can be human nature when we look at an overview of results like this, that we're looking for high score in every aspect. And with emotional intelligence, that is not the case. What we're looking for here really is balance. Let me give you an example of what I mean by balance. For instance, if your assertiveness is higher than your interpersonal relationship result, that would suggest that you tend to focus more on promoting your own views and needs, and that you may benefit from equally being attentive to the views of other people. If you do so, you may be better able to strike a balance of give and take in your work relationships. So that becomes a very good example of how these things need to be balanced, and all of these aspects will come into play when it comes to balance. Raising our awareness in relation to our own emotional intelligence and generally taking some personal actions do seem to deliver results quickly. This return on our investment can be encouraging. If we see some quick wins in our level of engagement with others, we are likely to want to continue to develop our skills further. Obviously, some aspects of our emotional intelligence may be a little harder to understand and to manage, and this is where the use of feedback and/or coaching can come in useful. If you would like to complete an EQI online assessment, you have 3 choices. You could opt for a workplace report, which covers all 15 aspects of emotional intelligence that we've discussed here today on the webinar. Alternatively, you could choose a leadership report. While this covers all aspects that we've discussed today, it does so and links this to leadership within organisations. Your third option would be a 360-degree report. This would mean that you would complete the online assessment, but you would also invite some other colleagues round about you to complete the same assessment on your behalf, thereby giving you a more rounded view of your emotional intelligence. If you would like to complete an EQI assessment or to be supported through feedback or coaching, the address for the Oak Ridge Centre is on this slide. You may also want to take a look at a book called The EQ Edge. This is the 3rd edition of this book by Stephen Stein and Howard Book. This book breaks down each of the aspects of emotional intelligence and gives definitions and further information on each. It is also easy to read, filled with anecdotes and stories that further enhance our understanding of emotional intelligence. There are also some personal exercises, some self-assessments that you can complete, and just further assignments that you may wish to work on. And finally, emotional intelligence. What will that bring us? We will be more likely to listen, reflect, and engage with our colleagues and customers. It will help us keep cool under pressure, and that in turn will help us make better business decisions and be better able to resolve conflicts. So if we could have just a little bit of all of these things within our organisations, how might that impact on our productivity and our motivation? Thank you for listening.